Hello and welcome to 5-Year Club video number 309. Alright, there we go. Now I can hear myself. Alright. Found this article today, kind of just in Google News from MSN.com. Tips from a guy who managed to live in Manhattan on $40,000 salary and still max out his 401k contributions, by Sean Langlois. Alright, but Sam Dogan of the Financial Samurai blog is living proof. Oh no, guys, this is one of those terrible articles where they take the real content, which is on the Financial Samurai blog, and then they summarize it, they quote from it, they take pictures from it, and they republish it with ads like in, on one of these mainstream sites. But this guy didn't actually contribute anything himself. He just ripped off this blogger. So we're just going to go directly to the source. I've talked about Financial Samurai before, and look, fair enough, guys. I am turning Financial Samurai's written content into a video, into audio. I am not profiting from it. I'm not serving ads against this. I make zero money from YouTube. I've made zero money from YouTube this entire year. The reason why this article inspired me today is because I think it's important when you want to get better with money, when you want to save more money, when you want to earn more money, that you get exposed to real people and their attitudes towards money and what actually happened and worked for them. Rather than, this kind of hyperbolic, Steve Jobs was worth $200 million when he was 22, which will never happen to most people, the vast majority of people, or some of the people out there who just, I don't know, I guess just unrealistic things. The real things make you realize kind of how hard it is. And that the hard feeling of it is a normal part of it, even while success is super possible. All right. Achieving financial independence on a modest income, $40,000 in Manhattan. Posted by Financial Samurai. And can I get a date on this? If I look in the URL, no, I don't see a date on it, but perhaps the comments have dates. And he's so popular that probably the first comment will have a date. November 12th, 2018, so this is pretty fresh. Cool. There are some people who think that only people with high incomes can achieve financial independence before the age of 65. They'll go on and on about how it's not fair that other people are able to escape the rat race early while they've got to grind on because they're earning less than 6 figures a year. Newsflash, nothing good comes easy. You're either going to bitch and moan about why life is not fair, or you're going to do something to better your situation. In a world where you can only depend on yourself for retirement, having a weak money mindset is devastating for your financial future. Let me share with you a story about some dude who was able to save for retirement while earning $40,000 a year in Manhattan, New York, the most expensive place in America. It can be done, folks, and I've got the budget to prove it. Achieving financial independence on a modest income. Imagine being 22 years old and finally landing your first job in finance. You thought you were going to be rich working at a prestigious investment bank, but nope. They send you an offer letter in the mail for $40,000 a year. What the heck? $40,000 in Manhattan is like earning $16,500 in Austin, Texas. Here are the costs of living salary equivalents for other major cities in America. Here are the cost of living equivalents, salary equivalents, for other major cities in America. So $40,000 in Manhattan is the same as $26,000 in Washington, D.C., $31,000 in San Francisco, $25,000 in Seattle, $24,000 in San Diego, $24,000 in Los Angeles, $20,000 in Chicago, $19,000 in Miami, $18,000 in Philadelphia, $16,000 in Houston, and $16,600 in Phoenix, Arizona. $40,000 is a fine salary, but you're not exactly living it up when it costs around $1,000 to rent a room and $6 to get a watered-down beer at a bar. When I was making $40,000 a year, a regular day would start at 5:30 a.m. and end at 7:30 p.m. I'd then have to work another 5 to 8 hours on the weekend. When you add up all the hours a week, a $40,000 a year salary equated to earning only about $10 an hour. Because I realized after 2 weeks on the job I couldn't last working such long hours for decades, I logically decided to save as much money as possible to give my future self options. And so here's the $40,000 salary budget breakdown. Below is my detailed budget breakdown when I was earning $40,000 a year living in Manhattan. Take a look and I'll explain a bit more. So 401k contribution is going to be $875 a month. Tax is going to be $833 a month. And this is kind of one of my rules, is always pay yourself more than you pay the government. It can get hard. But, it's just a nice kind of concept. Like, haha, I'm paying myself more than I'm paying the government. I win. Income after 401k and tax is going to be $1,625, which is actually not too far from what I was paying myself in my very first job. I had paychecks that were about $1,700, 17 something, and I would save a paycheck and then I would use the other paycheck for my monthly expenses. Of course, I had a $500 rented room in an attic, and I didn't have a car yet. And so those two facts helped me save a lot of money. Tax refund, $42 monthly, and net income is $1,667. And for rent, he had to pay $900, so that's Manhattan. That was more than I had in Berkeley for the first 6 months. Utilities, $20. That's pretty good. That's difficult. Food and drinks, $300. Stay after 7:30, eat at free at office cafeteria. Yep, he's working the system. Clothes, shoes, and accessories, $50. Healthcare premiums, $70. It's a bummer that his work was not paying that. Transportation, $80. I guess that's the normal New York City cost. Personal care, $10. Vacations, $50. Staycations in New York City. And, cable internet, $0. So he did not have cable. Mobile phone, $0. No cell phone when he was 22. Of course, cell phones weren't as popular then. Health club, $0. Had small gym and building. Lucky him. But I guess that's included in the $900. Gas, maintenance, and insurance, $0. Didn't have renter's insurance. That probably wasn't a good idea. Life insurance, company paid 4x of salary, $0. That's a pretty good life insurance benefit. Mine is not that high. Mine's like 1x salary. Total expenses, $1,480. Leftover cash flow for miscellaneous, $187. Saving for retirement. Back in 1999-2000, the max you could contribute to your 401k was $10,500 a year. After a month of working, I got educated about the importance of retirement savings, so I elected to deduct 30% from each paycheck to go to my 401k. Once the maximum was hit, the contribution stopped. By taking money off the top first, it was easier to adjust to a $28,000 gross salary. Wouldn't this be a $28,000 net salary? It also felt good that I didn't have to pay a 28% federal tax rate on the $10,500 either. With $10,500 a year in pre-tax savings and another $2,200 a year left in after-tax savings, I was saving a blended 31% of my gross income. The retirement savings mistake I made back then was not also contributing $2,000 a year to an IRA. However, I did end up using all of my after-tax cash flow to invest in stocks, one of which did very well. I wonder what that was. Maybe we'll look at it later. Was I financially independent while making $40,000? Heck no, but I did the math and knew that if I kept on saving at least $12,000 a year for the next 10 years, by the time I turned 32, I should have at least $150,000 with a 7% compound rate of return. Housing costs, $920 a month. While many of my fellow financial analysts decided to rent a one-bedroom for $2,100 a month with the help of their parents, or split a two-bedroom for $1,300 a month each in a nice part of Manhattan, I decided to split a studio with my high school buddy down in the dead zone. Our studio was at 45 Wall Street, a 10-minute walk to One New York Plaza, where I had to get in by 5:30 a.m. every morning.
Do laundry.
Alexa, off. 5:30 a.m. every morning. The traders and sales traders would arrive by 6:30 a.m., so I had to prepare as much printed research material about what went on overnight by the time they got in. Oh, how I remember the stress fixing photocopy machines. By living close by to work, I was not only able to save time, but transportation money as well. I sometimes fantasized about taking a nap back home during my lunch break, but that never happened. And you can see this with Mr. Money Mustache too. They think about their lives as systems, not just as small pieces. And so a lot of successful people I know, they minimize commute time because time that they spend commuting is time that they are not being productive and that they're not enjoying. Even during the depths of winter, our utility costs never got much higher than $40. When you're living in a small space, it's so much cheaper to heat. Besides, we were hardly ever home. We didn't have time to watch cable TV. There was no such thing as Wi-Fi or streaming services back then as well. All I did was come home to a mattress on the ground and pass out. Food and drinks, $300 a month. A great way to incentivize worker bees is to offer free cafeteria access once you work past a certain hour. Because I didn't have a lot of leftover cash flow, I would always stay until 7:30 p.m. and gorge myself with whatever was on the menu that day at 85 Broad Street. After filling up, I'd steal some fruits and mini cereal boxes to feed myself free breakfast the next day. There was always random free food in the office I could eat. It was part of the culture that if an employee closed a deal or got a big trade to buy lunch for their team or the floor. Despite the ubiquitous free food that got me fat, I still had a $300 a month food and beverage bill because I'd occasionally go out with colleagues. When you go out with friends and colleagues, it's customary to buy at least a round of drinks. I didn't want to be seen as a cheapskate, even though I had a thin financial cushion. Vacation and entertainment, $600 a year. Given I was working so much, I didn't take any vacations my first year because there was so much to do and learn. If I got an entire weekend off, that counted as my vacation. Only after the second year did I fly back to Hawaii to see family. Well, that's lucky. Fly back to Hawaii. During my weekends off, I'd go watch a movie in the theater, go out for dinner, catch an occasional cheap ticket play, or go to some free event in Central Park. My firm did have the occasional analyst appreciation outing where they'd take us to watch the Yankees or take us to some restaurant close by, but there was never anything fancy or special. A simple life was just fine. Even though my budget looks pretty boring, or maybe even a little sad, I was simply too busy at work to spend money on anything else. To pay up for a nice apartment felt stupid because I was hardly there. To go clubbing or get bottle service at a fancy lounge with my fellow analysts would only limit my options in the future. Yes, I wanted to go to the Hamptons during the summer and go on European vacations like my colleagues, but I wanted to reach at least a 50% savings rate before I partook of such festivities. I had my whole life ahead of me to enjoy. There was no rush. Besides, many of my classmates had family money. Yes, $40,000 back in 2000 went further than $40,000 does today. If you want to adjust the numbers into today's dollars, you can increase the salary and all other city salary equivalents by about 35%, assuming a 2% compound rate of return for 17 years, although many folks have seen their wages stagnate due to 2 recessions, globalization, and gains in productivity growth. See median income chart below by the St. Louis Fed. But I argue that earning $52,000 to $57,000 in Manhattan is still quite lean. You'd probably have to move to one of the outer boroughs to save money for retirement. However, when you have to get in at 5:30 a.m., spend an extra 30 minutes commuting could be unbearable. 30 plus minutes commuting could be unbearable. I knew that the rough times wouldn't last forever because there was upward mobility. If I could just survive in the industry for 10 years, I would make more because the normal trajectory in finance and in most occupations is for people to get promoted over time. So long as I could stay frugal while I made more, financial independence was an inevitability. There is no sacrifice when the reward is 1000x. That's a nice little quote. It's not a sacrifice when the reward is ridiculously amazing. All right. Advice for modest income earners wanting FIRE. Number 1, live in a crap box. Be honest. If you have an entire room to yourself, you are living large. In U.S. colleges, most students have dorm mates. In China, each college dorm room has bunk beds for 4 to 8 people. If you are a family of 3 living in a 2-bedroom apartment or larger with more than 1 bathroom, life is pretty comfortable. There is no reason why you shouldn't continue living like a college student until you can save at least 30% of your income, if not 50% of your income. Number 2, work so much you don't have to spend money. Your 20s are for learning. Your 30s and older are for earning. There is so much to soak in that if you're working 40 hours a week or less before the age of 40, you're leaving a lot on the table. People everywhere around the world are outworking you because they are hungry to improve their quality of life. Don't believe me? Go to any major city in a developing country and witness their work hours for yourself. Taiwan is already a developed country, and only in 2016 did they put into law to limit work days from 6 days a week, 48 hours, to 5 days a week. Number 3, don't confuse yourself with someone else. This is a common phenomenon I don't get. If you only work 40 hours a week, how can you compare your salary to someone working 60 hours a week? If you are 30 years old, how can you compare your net worth to someone who is 45 years old? If you work at a nonprofit, why are you comparing your income to someone working in the private sector? If you dropped out of college, it's not rational to compare yourself to someone with a graduate degree. If you aren't a regular Financial Samurai reader, how can you compare yourself to those who have been reading Financial Samurai since 2009? If you must compare, then compare yourself to people with similar backgrounds. If you want to aspire, eliminate the jealousy and learn from others who are doing things differently. Max out all pre-tax retirement accounts. You will adjust to your lower gross income because you will find ways to make things work. We get into trouble when we decide our lifestyle expenses first and then figure out how much we can save after. If you max out your 401k, then you'll always know that you're building at least that much for your retirement. In 10 years, I promise you will be happy you did. Number 5, ask yourself, what's wrong with making more? Unless you are a terrible employee with low self-esteem and a disability, your earnings trajectory should be up and to the right, along with inflation. You don't expect the stock market or the real estate market to stay the same price forever, do you? Neither should you expect your salary to stagnate with more experience and expertise. If you can't make more from your job, find another job. If you can't make more money finding another job, freelance after work. If you can't make more money freelancing after work, start your own online business. If you can't start your own online business, be a rideshare driver. If you can't be a rideshare driver, be a tasker. If you can't be a tasker, go to Upwork or Craigslist. If you get shut out at the thousands of online gig jobs you can do, find a wealthy partner or tell him or her to get hustling. Saving for retirement and achieving financial freedom is tougher with a lower salary, no doubt. But the good thing about having a lower salary is that you have more upside. This is where having an abundance mindset really helps. If you can control lifestyle inflation, you'll do just fine. It's those who keep spending at the pace of their income increase that get in so much trouble. Instead of complaining about higher income folks achieving financial independence sooner than you, expend your energy trying to improve your own situation. All right, so this is the mindset of Financial Samurai, and this is what he was doing at age 22 to build wealth. And you know what? He went into an industry that pays more than I did, and for sure in my 20s I got off track. I kind of started off aggressively with the savings, and then in my mid-20s I flaked out, and then at the end of my 20s I decided to get back on the horse. I got back on the horse, and in the early part of my 30s things have been fabulous. So I'm not where he is yet, because he retired with $2 million, I guess they said. Yeah, and I'm nowhere near that, but I'm working on it. We're working on it. You're working on it. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this was interesting. What are you spending on housing? What is your budget? How much are you working? Are you learning as much as you need to learn right now? Are you doing what you need to do to accomplish that. If you're not, go get an audiobook. Go get a real book. Sign yourself up for a class. Do something. Move yourself forward. Hope you enjoyed video number 309. Have a fabulous evening.